So let's talk about that work piece for a minute. You've had an amazing career. I mean, you've done things that almost, when I read about the going to the bottom of the Atlantic, I'm like, seriously? Sarah did that? Seriously? Anyway.
Super fun.
Yeah. I mean, not many people have done that. So, you know, you had an incredible career in New York, you know, and then you decided to move to Australia. And obviously, career-wise, had to have taken a little bit of a hit.
Well, it wasn't a decision I made for my career. That's a fact. I mean, given everybody's career is different, but in media, that was a great place to be. New York was a great place to be.
It's a bit more happening than Melbourne.
Well, it's just a bigger market. There's just no question about it. I was working for the national media in New York City, so that part was great. But you know what? I think it was one of those situations where I wanted to, because Andrew and I, my husband and I, talked about it. It was the right time. I always felt, even when we got married, it was really a discussion. It's not fair to me that it was one or the other. Two great countries, two great families, lots of opportunities. But then what is tricky is figuring out how you remake your career in a new place, and it isn't always straightforward, and it takes some creative thinking. It takes some lateral moves. You know, I think of Patty Sellers at Fortune, who talks about a career isn't a ladder, it's a jungle gym. Now that's awesome. You know, if you have that in your head, that's the way to go. It's a real, it can't just be straight up. And what is that anyway?
Well, I mean,
what is that anyway? Where's it going?
Find me someone who's had a career that goes in a straight line.
Yeah, we'll just pull it out.
Yeah, maybe they existed 40 years ago.
It doesn't work. It does not work. You know, and I'm not joking. Ladders can be pulled out. You know, jungle gyms is a lot more. It's a lot steadier.
It's more interesting. You don't know quite what's
more
going to come, and you get to be more creative in creating what it is too. And I know you've done a lot of that. So let's talk about starting from zero in a new country.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because when we were speaking about this before, I think one of the challenges for me is that a lot of my life it's been feeling like you're starting from zero. Every time I start a new book, you're starting from zero. It's the ultimate blank page. That's genuinely what it is. You're looking at the computer screen and there are no letters on it. I usually start optimistically with the number 1 at the bottom of the page. First of all, because I like 1, and secondly, because then there's something on the page.
Not 0.
Yeah, and then you can start with the or a or and, you know, you get a noun or verb. But joking aside, there's nothing there. And I actually think it's a great metaphor for a lot of times. When I moved from the United States to Australia, I was starting from 0. But then as I thought about that, I thought, because it's daunting, I thought, I've done this before. I can do this again. Every time a kid graduates and goes on to the next school, they're starting from 0. We forget that. We forget how much ability we have to start from 0. Because what happens as we get older is we do not do it as frequently, and we're more risk averse.
Well, and I wrote a blog and Forbes column on this recently about sunk cost bias. We have a bias. Yeah, we sink a lot of ourselves, a lot of years of our life, a lot of energy, a lot of our reputation, money on a certain path, and we have an aversion to just going, okay, I'm going to change and go somewhere else where I can't get all the benefit of all that time and money and everything I've invested. And I think being willing to go, I may have been moving in this direction. There's a lot of inertia in this direction, but is it moving me in a direction that I want to go still?
That's right.
And is it actually working for me?
Well, that's it. And I think that you have to be willing to actually take that leap and start from 0. And that actually it's incredibly powerful and liberating to do it. I mean, one of the things when we moved over here, I did the same thing when I moved to New York, except there I had the safety net because I'd moved for a job. That's a different situation. Yeah. But in the case of moving to Australia, you know, lots of my friends in New York said, okay, do you know where you're going to live, where the kids are going to go to school, you know? And I said, well, no, I don't know any of that. I don't know what my job is going to be. I don't know, you know, I know nothing. And so we really were starting from 0. And at first that's quite daunting. And then it's frankly liberating.
Yeah.
And I had friends saying, I actually think that sounds great. Because when you do the move, you're forced. to see yourself differently because you are operating in a different environment.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Well, and I think, whether it's starting a new book with a blank page, I often think of it in terms of just a blank canvas.
Yes.
Like, okay, and some of my friends who've lost their jobs have said, in hindsight, it was the best thing, because they're like, well, if I'm not going to do that, I get to choose, what do I want to do?
Exactly.
What do I like doing? And you can start all over it. And it's easier to do that in a new place than it is when you're already fixed in something,
Well, and to your point about the sunk costs, I think what maybe a lot of people will find is all those things that you used, although they don't add up to the same thing, you're going to find that if you've got a skill, it's going to come in handy. I mean, if you're in that little boat and you've left the mothership and you're busy in the lifeboat, you quickly assess, what are my tools here? And you look at the basics and then you go, what's that cool gizmo? I've never seen that, but then you see all the stuff that and that to me is like a lot of what's happening.
I think about that because I started out in the corporate world and then I went back and did psychology and coaching, and I remember thinking, well, maybe my time working at big corporates in marketing was a bit of a waste. I didn't go on and pursue that career, but just what I learnt about organizations and politics and the psychology of people in organizations, that has been so relevant to my work in coaching and speaking and everything else that I look back and go, it's extraordinarily valuable. I didn't see how valuable it was at the time.
Don't you feel like sometimes too, it's like building a mosaic, but you're actually right close to it, so you can't see the pattern.
Yeah.
And then you pull back and you say, wow, I didn't really realize when I was picking up this skill, meeting that person, learning that thing. And that's the part about moving to a new place. If you're even remotely open, you're learning so much new information, and that changes you in really great ways. I can't imagine not having moved to Australia.